Hello, Olathe West. Welcome to another ACT Math Prep. Today we're going to focus on Pythagorean Theorem. Now, before we get started, there are some materials that you will need. You need something to write with, you need some paper. Graphing calculator would be helpful, especially whatever calculator you would ever be using on the ACT. In other words, phones, they do not allow you to use those on the ACT. So might want to get familiar with your graphing calculator. Also, make sure to bring a willingness to learn and a positive attitude. Again, we're trying to teach you some of the math you've already learned, like Pythagorean theorem is taught in 8th grade. But we want you to see that in terms of the ACT questions and to feel confident about that and feel really good about getting those questions right. You'll see probably, maybe 2-3 questions like this on the actual ACT. All right, well, let's get started with this. First off, Pythagorean theorem, right? A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. It only is used in right triangles. And you also want to make sure that C is the hypotenuse. In other words, it's the longest side. These other two sides are called legs, and we'll see that in some questions. They'll say one side is a hypotenuse, they'll say something's a leg, so on. Now, Pythagorean theorem is pretty great. There'll be a couple questions that do require its use, but most of them will utilize these things called Pythagorean triples. You definitely want to write these ones down, okay? So I'm talking, write these on your piece of paper as we speak. These are side lengths of right triangles that work. In other words, if I were to take this first one, 3, 4, 5, I know 5 is the biggest side. It's got to be the hypotenuse. The other two sides are 3 and 4. It doesn't really matter if they're switched or not, but 5 is the hypotenuse. And if I do the Pythagorean theorem, plug the numbers in, we'll see that we get 25 is equal to 9 plus 16. In fact, that works. So this is like a quick way to get an answer. It's a huge time saver. Now, you should note that if 3, 4, 5 works, so would 6, 8, 10, right? If I were to multiply all of those by 2, or if I were to multiply them by 10, 30, 40, 50, and so on, right? It would work out. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to make sure we're always using those Pythagorean triples whenever possible. And when we can't use them, then we'll use the Pythagorean theorem, okay? But the goal is to try to get through questions a little quickly. So here is our first one. I'll let you read it. It's graphed. They want to know how long is the hypotenuse, right? Now we have to remember the hypotenuse is this side, right? Now, how long are the other two sides? Well, how far is it from here to here? Well, we start at 0, we get to 30, so this must be a distance of 30, and this must be a distance of 40. Don't say it's negative 40, okay? It's a distance. Now, I think we could all agree that things are drawn to scale. We've talked about that before on the ACT, that things are always drawn to scale unless they tell you they're not. I think we can assume that like this side here, it's got to be bigger than 40, right? It's got to be the biggest side. So I know automatically those 3 are not correct. And that's if I didn't know anything about the problem. Just, is it drawn to scale? What should it be? I could get it down to a 50 or 70. Now, if this distance here is 40 and this is 30, there's no way this is 70. Look, I think I could just, by purely drawing to scale, get the right answer pretty quickly. However, we should work this out. And I do notice that this is a triple, right? 30, 40. This side must be 50, okay? It's a triple. Pretty quick though, right? 2 nice techniques to get there. Let's look at another graphing one. If we take a look at this, it's a similar kind of question. If we glance at the answers, we see some very some square roots in there. Well, we'll see what happens, right? I know that this side is 6 and this side is 6. And the question says, what's the length of AB? How far is it from A to B? Now, I know there's a thing called the distance formula, but I've noticed some students have a hard time with that. And it's really just Pythagorean theorem. So why not just cut the memorizing down and just use Pythagorean theorem? We know that this side here has got to be it's got to be bigger than 6, doesn't it? So I know it can't be J. There's no way it's 12. I mean, it's not going to be twice as big as that. No way at all. So the question is, which of these is it? Well, this one I think we're going to have to do the Pythagorean theorem, right? That c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Well, I'm not sure what c squared is, right? I'm calling that x. But the other two sides are both 6s. So we wind up with and then to get rid of that second power, we take the square root. And it really should be a plus or minus, but this is a length, right? So there's no such thing as a negative length down there. Now, we're not going to talk about reducing square roots. That's not the point of this lesson here. So if I were to key in, like the square root of 72, it does reduce down, okay? And that's what these are. But if I were just to key this into my calculator, I would get something about 8.48. And then what I do is I start typing these in and see which one of these would give me the same decimal answer. Turns out letter G would get you there. And then people that are watching it know how to reduce square roots. Definitely, yep, it would reduce to be that. There are lots of other ways to get this answer also, especially if you knew like some special 45, 45, 90 triangles, but we're focusing on just Pythagorean theorem. Okay, let's go ahead and look at this one. Go ahead and read it to yourself. See what they're asking? The midpoint of AB, so exactly halfway, right? Is how many inches from A? How long is that? Well, things are drawn to scale, right? I think we could safely say 40, no way is that 40. I mean, this distance here is 32. There's no way this distance is more than that. And in fact, if that distance is 32, I kind of know that halfway there would be 16. And this looks to be more than 16. Again, you always want to think about like eliminating answers that don't make sense. Things are being drawn to scale. Because I know sometimes the geometry, it's a little scary. Now, if I look at this, I could do Pythagorean theorem on this, but it's really a Pythagorean triple. This side here is really 3 times 8. And this side here is really 4 times 8. And do we see the triple? 3, 4. So this side must be 5 times 8, which is 40. Now, I'm really glad we crossed 40 out as an answer because many people could be tempted to select that one. Now we're told this is a midpoint. So if the whole thing is 40, I think these two sides both have to be 20s. And so our answer is letter B. Okay, I'd like you all to do this one. And I'm going to give you a, let me back this up. I'm going to give you a full minute on this one, okay? So see if I can stop moving it. All right, you've got 1 minute. Go. Okay, 30 seconds left here. Okay, well, on this question, it is a Pythagorean triple. If we look at the triples I supplied, 5, 12, 13 is a triple. This side is 5, this side is 12, this side is 13. But you got to read, right? Don't automatically select letter E. Question says, Paula wants to put a rest stop at the halfway point on the course. How many miles past B will the rest stop be? So they want to know, how far out would we have to go? Well, the course is this. So if I add up all these sides, 12 plus 13 plus 5, I wind up with a distance of 30. And if I take half of that, 15 is what the halfway point will be. Now we're told that we start at A, right? It says participants will begin at A and ride directly to B. So we're going to go here 5. Well, that means this distance here must be 10, right? Because we've got to go a total of 15 to put water halfway. So letter D must be our answer. All right, pretty good. Oops. Let's go ahead and do this one. The ACT likes to do these walking questions sometimes. We kind of have to know that we go north, south, east, west. And we need to draw the picture. One of the really good ACT techniques is to draw the darn picture. Drawing the picture helps you out. And it says, Juanita walked from her home to the bakery. First walking 0.3 miles due east. So let's say Juanita starts here. 0.3 miles due east. Then 0.4 miles due north. What is the straight line distance in miles from the bakery to Juanita's home? How long is that? Well, this is the right triangle. And I'm hoping you see the 3, 4, 5 triple that we need, which is letter D, okay? These triples are really, really a fast way to go about doing these. All right, I'm gonna have you do one that's just like this one with Juanita. It's right here, it's number 28. I'm gonna give you only 30 seconds on this one though. Okay, we're reading here. It says on Saturday morning, they hiked to a wilderness area 3 miles due north. So here they are starting. They go 3 miles due north. Then 4 miles due east of their campsite. What is the straight line distance from the wilderness area to their campsite? How long is that? Well, I'm hoping everyone did a 3, 4, 5 triple to get there. Definitely the most efficient way to do that. Okay. I want you all to do number 8 here. You're going to have 30 seconds, and please, please, please draw the picture. Okay, 15 seconds left. All right. Now they told us that this is a right triangle, so I'm going to draw one. The length of the hypotenuse is 50. So 50. And the length of one of its legs is 40. What is length in inches of the other leg? So how long is this? Well, this is a 3, 4, 5 triple, right? Must be 30. Really not too bad. Okay. I want you to do the one right next to it, number 5. This one, I think you're going to have to do Pythagorean theorem. I'll give you 30 seconds. Okay, 15 seconds left. All right. We are told that a leg is 9. I'm going to call this side 9. And another leg is 2. They want to know how long the hypotenuse is, how long x is. Well, I'm going to do that Pythagorean theorem because there's no triple with this one. So we have x squared is equal to 9 squared plus 2 squared. So x squared equals 81 plus 4, or 85. We square root both sides. X is equal to the square root of 85. And we see it right there, letter C. All right. I'm going to give you 15 seconds to do this one. Let's draw the picture first and then work it out. This is one of the rare, I think there's only 3 occurrences in the history of the ACT I've seen where the answer is cannot be determined. See, the thing is, when people do this question, a lot of them think, okay, I'm going to go and draw myself a right triangle. I'm going to call it D, E, F, and DE is the square root of 60. The length of EF is 6. And you start doing Pythagorean theorem, and they see the answer, and they go, nowhere are we told this is a right triangle. See, the ones before, like on number 8 here, we were told right triangle. Like on number 5, they didn't say right. Oh, they did. Yeah, it said right triangle here, right? But they did say the word hypotenuse, right? It's only in a right triangle. This one, it's not there. Also, it's in like the last 21 questions. So a little unnerving there. Okay. Now, I know a lot of people do like to use the distance formula. I'm trying to cure you of the distance formula. I don't want you to do it. Do Pythagorean theorem instead. This question right here. Now, this question is part of, like, a lot of times ACT will have some information like here, and there's like 3 or 4 questions that utilize this. This is one of those, right? We really don't need to know any of this for the question. It's for the other ones. But a question says, what's the distance from B to D? How long is it from B to D? And, you know, they give you the points here, and I can see some people like, I'm doing distance formula. Don't. Okay. If you notice, there's a right triangle here. How tall is it? 3. How long is it? 4. So what's the hypotenuse? 5. 3, 4, 5 triple. Okay. Try to avoid the distance formula if you can. Instead, try to do Pythagorean or the Pythagorean theorem, and luckily it was triple. Okay, let's try 39. Now notice this was like number 30, so that's up there a little bit. This is number 39. Again, they give you a graph, and they want you to know how far is it from A to B. But my recommendation is don't do the distance formula. Instead, draw yourself a right triangle. Okay, I want you to, we're trying to figure out how long this side is. So I'm going to give you a minute to come up with these 2 sides and to do the Pythagorean theorem. I think this one you have to do Pythagorean theorem. Everyone figure how tall it is? Remember, the y values are the ones that tell you the height. Well, the difference in these numbers is 4. This has to be a height of 4. The x values tell you how long it is. The difference in 2 and -5, how far apart are they? They're 7 apart, right? So, trying to figure out what c is, or x rather. So I'm just going to do Pythagorean theorem. Bam. There it is. Not too bad. Okay, we got time for one more question, and it's my favorite one of all these Pythagorean theorem questions. It's this number 24. I think it's really a neat question. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. I think it should be like in the 40s because I think it's a little bit tougher. But there's some information, you know, like D is a midpoint. So that means these two sides are equal. They want to know how long is AD. Well, here's what's cool about this one. We do all of our strategies. I think this length is bigger than 8, but smaller than 10. Well, if it's smaller than 10, I think the square root of 105 is not smaller than 10. That's more than 10. I could use my calculator and see that. 8, right? It's got to be bigger than 8. So it's got to be bigger than the square root of 41. So just by having things drawn to scale, we can figure this out, or at least get it down to only 3 choices instead of 5. And that wasn't too hard to do. If you notice, there's a really large right triangle here. And I think there's a triple here. I think 10 is 2 times 5. I think 8 is 2 times 4. So I think this side would be 2 times 3, because that would be that 3, 4, 5 triple. So I'm saying this whole side is going to be 6. Well, if this whole side is 6, then each of these little sides must be 3, right? Okay. Do you see the other right triangle? Everyone go ahead and do Pythagorean theorem on these two, on this green triangle here. Square root of 73. Cool. All right. So to kind of recap real quick, remember Pythagorean theorem, right? It's right triangles. You've got the legs, the hypotenuse is the biggest side. Many times these questions really involved knowing the triples. So start committing these ones to memory. It's a huge time saver. As you saw, the answer is just so much faster to use that than to go ahead and go through the whole Pythagorean theorem idea. Hope you enjoyed this, and keep working hard on your ACT, right? Everyone's going to do I think we've got a practice ACT test coming up in October, unless you're having to do the PSAT, or if you're a freshman and you're taking the pre-ACT, which will predict what you're going to get on the ACT. Lots of good ACT stuff coming up in October. See you later. Bye-bye.